And joining us now as we talk about the markets, the ag economy, and more as we wrap up 2022. Pleased to have back with us here on the show, Ed Usset from the University of Minnesota. Ed, great to have you back with us here on Market Talk, sir. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well, Jesse, and thank you for inviting me back.
Well, we had a great time with our discussion last time, and I'm glad we can catch up and kind of talk here as we wrap up the year. And I think just to start, Ed, it's been an interesting month of December. It's been a wild year throughout agriculture and the markets. As you look at the trade here, kind of wrapping up the year, what stands out to you? It feels like it's kind of that holiday malaise type of trade, but yet there's still some headlines out there that we're kind of watching in the markets right now.
Malaise is a good word. We are really kind of drifting. The corn market drifting lower, the soybean market drifting sideways to a little higher, looking good. These drifting markets concern me a little bit. They feel like markets that are they need something new to trade. They need some new news. Bull markets live on good news, something to keep them going higher. And I've got a bias, my own bias being if a market can't find a way to go higher, it will drift lower. And that seems to be where we are, particularly with corn and wheat.
Well, I think about headlines and maybe something to feed that bull market. I know we have China out there, whether or not they'll start buying more corn or, more soybeans. Will that export window shut? South America, of course, top of mind. And we can't forget about the Black Sea region.
Right.
It still feels like some of those same elements are out there in the trade that we've had really all year long, Ed.
They're there, but they haven't thrown us anything new lately. In fact, if there's anything new out of China, you got COVID and the problems that's creating for them. Not exactly bullish news. If we go to South America, if you want to talk weather, the bulls want to talk about problems in Argentina. The bears will say, look a little bit north to Brazil. They seem to be doing just fine. And frankly, Argentina in the world of grain production is kind of a little brother to Brazil. Brazil is doing well, and I think they are. That sort of overshadows Argentina.
It definitely does. Well, and the next couple of weeks ahead will be more key for that South American weather. And I've been hearing a lot from folks, if Brazil ends up having a big record crop like they're saying, it may not matter as much as you just kind of alluded to. It may not matter as much about Argentina. It should, but if Brazil's got a huge crop, it might offset things, so to speak.
They can not only offset, they can more than compensate for Argentina's problem if they deliver in a big way.
Definitely. So we think about that. That's more of a what if in the market.
Mm-hmm.
As you look at things here, as we're getting close to the end of the year, I mean, it's hard to, we can't predict the markets, I should say. And it's hard for farmers. I think maybe here's they're sharpening their pencils at the end of the year. They're looking at their risk management plan. They're looking ahead to 23. I'm sure there's a lot of things out there we could focus on. What's top of mind for you as we wrap up the last couple of weeks of the year here and head into next year? What should farmers be thinking about risk management wise?
Well, you've got old crop issues. That is the crop you harvested just a few months ago that's sitting in the bin, and new crop opportunities. On the old crop, I'm looking ahead to the new year. And it wouldn't surprise me at all, Jesse, to see these markets a little bit on the defensive, particularly the basis, because I think a lot of producers had a very profitable 2022. They're on a cash basis. They don't want any more income this year. So I think we're going to see some grain movement with the new year and the new tax year. And that could put prices on the defensive for 4 to 8 weeks. If nothing else, just easier movement of grain. New crop, the opportunities for new crop sales, 2023, the December corn contract has drifted lower, but it's not low. I mean, it's still $5.95. It's still a decent opportunity to get started. if you haven't done anything, it might be a good idea to get a few sales on the books, and then hope like hell that that idiot from the University of Minnesota is wrong again. Same thing with soybeans, you know. And in fact, I've told people in the past, Jesse, if you're a fatalist, if you think I'm going to sell something and then the market's going to go up and make me feel dumb, trick the market, make a few little small sales, and see if it, you know, just small ones, and see if you can't trick it into going a little higher.
Well, it's also paramount too, and I think a lot of folks realize this, but maybe some, lose sight of this sometimes. If they're booking inputs or have already booked inputs for next year, if you don't have any sales of any kind on the books, you should have something to protect that risk of putting in what many are thinking will be a record price to plant a crop in
Yeah.
2023, Ed.
Yeah, yeah. If you're booking one side of the, you have to do more than play on half of the equation. You got to be looking at the whole equation to make it work.
Definitely. And one other thought back to the old crop side as well. Sometimes I hear some folks say the marketing plan is, well, throw it in the bin, set it, forget it. It's cold in the winter. I don't want to do anything with it. And then they'll just wait until they get to a point beginning of the new year and they make a sale. But I know some folks are maybe, trying to reshape thinking on that method. And whereas, look at maybe doing some different marketing strategies instead of just the old set it and forget it method, Ed.
A lot of different ways to price grain out there, a lot of them, and I can't emphasize enough to people, you don't have to do it all one way. You don't have to do it all at one time. Spread it out. Uh, get rid of this thought that I'm going to find the high in the market. What you're searching for is a good average price. That's what you're really looking for.
Definitely, definitely. Logistics going into next year as well. We've seemingly averted a rail strike. The water levels on the Mississippi River are starting to rise again.
Mhm.
It feels like some of these logistical challenges and supply chain issues that we've had impact agriculture throughout 2022 and 2021 as well. It feels like they're starting to ease. Are you seeing some of that as you look into 2023, Ed?
I think so. I'm not hearing big complaints out there from shippers about the inability to get something done. It might also help that demand is a touch on the soft side and the export side of life. So that's taking a little pressure off the system too.
I wonder, I'm bouncing around just a bit here. I wonder if we do see more alleviating of the supply chain logistical concerns, if that could start to have an impact on basis. Some of those basis levels in the Western belt have remained really strong. I wonder if we could see that be an impact here as we get into the new year, Ed.
It could, but I still think that's the high basis level is the difficulty of getting farmers, our listeners here, to
Mhm.
move that grain. They're just having a, the buyers are just having a hell of a time getting people to move grain.
Ed, I want to talk about a few other topics as well. And one that I know you wanted to touch on, and I thought this was a great thing for us to look at, is the just the rapid expansion of the soy crushing industry. And I know this has been a point in this soybean market. We've been hearing about it all year long. And I can't count the number of soy crushing facilities that have popped up now here this year. What are your thoughts on the expansion in soy crushing and the impact it could have on this market as we look out, say, 1, 2, 3, 5 years down the road?
Yeah, I've been giving this a lot of thought. It's I can count the number. I've seen reports on it, and I keep a little notebook on it. I believe right now there are 16 over the last. This is over the last 18 to 20 months. There have been 16 separate announced either expansions of existing soy crushing facilities, or in some cases, brand new greenfield production of new soy crushing facilities. Jesse, none of them are small. Nobody does things in a small way anymore. They're all big. It kind of depends on who's counting and how you add it up. but this points to an expansion of our U.S. soy crushing capacity somewhere around, if it all comes to be.
Hmm.
There may be a big caveat there, but people typically don't announce things if they aren't hell bent to get it done. This could be a 25% or more expansion of our existing soy crushing facility. This, of course, is driven by renewable diesel and EPA programs to go that direction. And their recent announcements give you some, make you wonder a little bit. They're not
Hmm.
exactly wholehearted into it. But what it comes down to is you start to play with the math and you say to yourself, okay, if we're going to be crushing another 600 million bushels in 4 or 5 years, where are those bushels coming from? So I do a little back of the napkin scratching with the math, and I come up with somewhere 10 and a half, 11, 12 million more acres of soybeans are needed. And of course, you see, we, we don't have any more acres. To get 12 million more acres of soybeans, we've got to take it from somewhere. We got to take it from wheat, from corn, from cotton. I don't know where. Others have said, I've heard people say, well, we just won't export as much to China. That's easily said, but if they want soy, that's a competitive thing that'll be fought
Hmm.
in the battlefield of the market and prices. By the way, I'm conservative when I say 12 million more acres. I saw a report out of US Wheat Associates. I don't know how they do the math, but they think it needs 20 to 25 million more acres. An economist out of CoBank said 18 million more soybean acres. What it makes me think of is rewind the time machine, go back 15 years when ethanol was in this
Hmm.
growth spurt and it was demanding more and more corn acres. That didn't just affect the corn market, it affected all markets. Because if in fact we get 5 million more acres of corn, we got that much less wheat, that much less soybeans or something in the mix, and it upset those markets. So I think this next 3, 4, 5 years, as these plants are built and they open, and assuming they all get done, it's going to be one heck of an interesting time to see how this acres battle plays out. I think if it happens as they hope it happens, it's friendly long term to soybean prices and in fact other grain prices, cotton prices, the whole works.
Hmm.
But it's not something we can bet on in the next 2 months. It's something we're going to watch develop in the years ahead.
Yes, definitely. And to your point, kind of a rising tide lifts all boats,
Mhm.
so to speak, is what we could be looking at. And you mentioned the EPA announcement recently, but even with that, and maybe some disappointment on that renewable diesel, biodiesel side, I'm in agreement with you. This soy crush expansion, it just feels like it's the same thing as you mentioned, ethanol. It feels like it's
Yeah,
ethanol all over
yeah,
again.
it does.
Um, but I think it's a very valid question that you brought up. Where do the acres come from? And I think the only answer to that is going to be actually just seeing what farmers decide in the next couple of years, Ed. It's just going to come
And
down to that.
and and their decisions will be based on how the market reacts. Is
Yes.
soybean price that much higher? Uh, that's
Hmm.
that's what markets are for. We figure things out in the marketplace.
We do. We figure things out in the marketplace, and that's what it's about. Ed, before I let you go, just some thoughts, livestock markets as well. I know we've been hearing a lot about just the quote unquote this consolidation of the beef herd and looking at hogs as well, and obviously here during the fourth quarter looking at demand issues. Any thoughts with livestock and maybe how some of the high feed costs have weighed into things here as well? Any thoughts that you see over in the livestock trade?
Oh boy, my livestock expertise, Jesse, is not big, not high, and I've told people for many years they'll listen to me talk about grain markets and
Mhm.
marketing, and they might be, I might fool them, and they might be semi-impressed, and they'll say, "Geez, you sound like you got it together there. What do you think of cattle?" And I'm like, "Leave me alone, buddy." I mean, that when you cattle and hogs, that's
Mhm.
the PhD level of marketing. That's difficult stuff. It's going to be challenging. It already is with the higher feed costs and that. But the market, livestock markets, just seem to adapt over time.
That's a good thought. I'll circle back and we'll swing back into your wheelhouse in the grains here to wrap it up as we take a look here at the end of the year and think about 2023. Any other thoughts? Anything else you want to reiterate? Just some recommendations, or tips, or thoughts for producers as they're looking at things heading into next year, Ed?
Have an idea what you want to do. I mean, the prices have been good, and marketing, frankly, has been a little bit on the easy side over the last year. Fight complacency, this idea that, well, it'll always be good, it'll be good again. I sure hope it is. I hope we get a spring rally as we have in each of the last 2 years, but we have no guarantees of that. So have an idea of what it is you need to do. You know, everyone talks about outlook, Jesse. Outlook. What do the experts say about the market? And I'm always telling producers, do a little in look. Look at your own operation and what works for you, and um, uh, don't get knocked off your aims based on something that some guy from the University of Minnesota or the University of Illinois says. Make sure you're focused on your own operation and what you need.
Well, great thoughts to consider and ponder, and we appreciate a bit of your time. With that, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, sir. Thanks for joining us, and we'll get you back on the show again real soon.
Okay, Jesse, thank you, and enjoy the holidays, you and your listeners.
Thank you very much. Ed Usset with the University of Minnesota joining us here today on Market Talk.